Hello, BookTube. This is my wrap-up video for Sagalong 2024, an annual event where a bunch of us get together and read the Icelandic sagas. Been doing it for quite a few years. I'm not sure how many exactly, but we do it a little different each year. The time shifts up a little bit when we do it. And this year we went ahead and decided we were going to read the Saga of the Volsungs, and I actually interlibrary loaned a copy. And for the first time ever I've ever done this, right? I'm going to have a printout to try to keep track of all the characters. Unfortunately, this is one aspect of the sagas that I struggle with. I love the imagery, although some of it can be quite off-putting. And a lot of times, these images from these stories will stay with me. This saga, it's a heroic saga, probably written down in about 1300. And it's parts of it are derived from the Poetic Edda, which is older. But the story could go back as far as 300 AD. Now, I'm not sure anybody has a definitive answer to that. And it's got a lot of elements that you would find in modern fantasy. And I was looking, and we were talking on our Voxer group, and what was the one? I got it written down here. Tolkien had done a volume, and I loved it when I read this. I'll just read it to you. So, let's see. The Legend of Sigurd and Gudrun from Tolkien, where he retells this tale, but he wouldn't use the Saga of the Volsungs. He used poems in the Elder Edda because he thought that the author of the Saga of the Volsungs had made a jumble of things. And he's absolutely right. Obviously, he knows way more about this stuff, or he did, than I ever will. But I did enjoy it. So first of all, let's get to the translation. And this actually was interesting. So I got the Saga of the Volsungs. This book also includes the Saga of Ragnar Lodbrok, together with the Lay of Kraka. And it's translated from the Old Norse by Margaret Schlock. And it came out from the American Scandinavian Foundation in New York in 1930. Now, I looked up Margaret Schlock. I just went to Wikipedia. I mean, you could do the same if you're interested in it. She's taught it in New York, had Marxist leanings. So this is published in the 1930s. You can tell how that might not go well. And the House Un-American activities that the McCarthy group went after her, and she just left the country. She went to Poland, where she slowly established herself as just as popular a professor and beloved figure as she had been in New York. And then this was sort of her specialty. In fact, I think there's a note there that she left her personal library, which I guess was quite extensive, to the university she taught at in Warsaw. So, the translation, I mean, I can't read Old Norse, so I never really do know how good it is. It was entertaining and fast-paced. That may just be the nature of the beast. But like I say, the confusion that, because it is a hodgepodge, like Tolkien saying it drove him crazy, you think about what it do for a person like me. So, there is, I'm just going to try to keep track with some of this and then give you my impression. So the Volsung Saga begins with Sigi, S-I-G-I, the ancestor of the Volsung lineage. And I'm just going to say Skoj. And then there's the stories of all of a sudden everybody fighting and killing, right? So it starts with a murder, and that's not unusual in these stories. And a servant had or a regular non-noble person had the audacity to be a better hunter than a noble person, and he gets killed. His name's Breed, and they bury him in a snowdrift. And then you start going down the lineage. To me, the most interesting character, and it's to most people, is Sigurd, who ends up being egged on by a guy to kill Fafnir the dragon. The guy egging him on actually is the brother of the dragon, because the dragon was a transformed person. And Fafnir has laid on a hoard. Sigurd figures out how to get him by going after him by digging pits, which was actually suggested by the other guy, the guy egging him on, and he kills Fafnir, and this becomes a very famous thing. And the other famous thing is the ring, which is called the Andvaranaut, and it's Andvaranaut. And any of my Norwegian friends out there, please forgive me. I struggle with a lot of this stuff. And it's a cursed ring because it had originally been taken from a gnome who was a fish. It's a long story. And Loki, the god Loki, wanted the hoard, and these things get pretty interesting. We also see Odin show up. He seems like a very Gandalf-like figure. So the ring probably inspired, at least to some degree, Tolkien in The Lord of the Rings. Though we probably can overstate that. And then Odin appearing in the stories a couple times, once when putting a sword in I think it was a tree, and somebody had to pull it out. That seems to be an old theme, right? And only the strongest person can get it. And you have him, he's always an old man with a floppy hat and that type of thing. So that's sort of neat. You can see where that's been used in modern fantasy. Obviously, Gandalf's the first thing that comes to my mind. But so you have battles. You have the viciousness sometimes unbelievable, and not just the men. Some of the women characters, who I think are actually some of the strongest characters in this thing. Say there's one that had marry a king. Atli, I think his name was supposed to be Attila the Hun. So there's a lot of that runs through this. She just slices her kids' throats because they had the wrong father, even though she's their mother. Yes, and there's a lot of that type of stuff. So it is adventurous. It is fun. It's convoluted. There's little set scenes that really, really stuck with me this time. And I had similar type things back when we read Niall's saga with the burning of the people in the house. But here there's a burning. So a guy and then all his retainers. So that seems to be a theme too. And then honor, of course. Everything's honor. Not honor that you and I would think of necessarily. So, or probably even at all, but that's okay. I did enjoy it. It's a quick read. Okay, so I read this thing a week and something ago, but I've just had too much going on at work to get to the video. And I was afraid I'd lose some, and you do, or at least I do. I lose some with the time because of the convoluted nature of the story and the names, trying to keep everything straight. But it did make an impression on me. The dragon bit, mothers killing their own children, rampaging in long ships across the seas to pillage and plunder and fight, and the burning scene with the soldiers and their leader, and there's a lot of stuff. It's funny how the whole story of the Huns has gotten sort of garbled. over the centuries, but it still had enough of impact to make it in the story. And then one thing I read that I'm not sure of the details of is that this does have bits that are missing in the Elder Edda that allow scholars to sort of say, well, this must have been somewhat of what some of this looked like. So I'm sure for somebody who studies this stuff, this is all great interest, and it is to me. So I'm glad I read it. If you want to read it, it is quick. My translation was fine. I didn't read the Penguin. I don't know who did the Penguin translation. So you know that. So they have a little list here, and they're going to be the usual characters who you would suppose that were influenced by this. Richard Wagner with his epic Ring Cycle came immediately to mind. And they have Ibsen's The Vikings of Helgeland, William Morris's epic, The Story of Sigurd and the Volsung and the Fall of the Nibelungs. William Morris is one writer who many of you know was also an artist and arts and crafts innovator and a very I read one biography of a very fascinating character. Famous for the Kelmscott Press and the Kelmscott Press Chaucer, which is one of the great books of the world. I have not read his fiction, and I probably need to. I don't see it like I used to. It used to be around quite a bit. And I don't know if I'm going to read Tolkien's Sigurd and Gudrun anytime soon, but I will get to it. So anyway, this is a rambling video. You can tell I'm struggling to figure out how to do this. So my interlibrary loan copy, notes, trying to keep track of everybody. But I feel better that Tolkien thought it was a little jumbled too. So that's always fascinating, right? So I hope you're all doing well, and thank you, BookTube.